west and traded goods around St. Louis. There he plunged into his advocacy of a hollow earth with Halley's concentric spheres and Euler's holes. Sims tried to talk Congress into funding an expedition to find the Antarctic hole into the center of Earth. He failed, but he did pick up an enthusiastic disciple, Jeremiah Reynolds. When Sims died at the early age of 48, Reynolds took up the cause. In 1829, Reynolds managed to raise enough money for an Antarctic voyage. It yielded nothing, of course, but it took more than defeat to squash Reynolds. He traveled, lectured, even engaged Edgar Allan Poe as an ally. Hollow Earth remained alive and well, flitting between literature and pseudoscience. Baudelaire was interested. Jules Verne and Edgar Rice Burroughs made hay with the idea. By the time I was reading about Hollow Earth in Amazing Stories magazine, the idea was pretty well limited to science fiction. But the impulse to believe anything strange is, alas, intact. And this year that impulse has had quite a season indeed. I'm John Lienhardt at the University of Houston, where we are interested in the way inventive minds work.
A transcript of this Engines of Our Ingenuity episode number 2180 is online at uh.edu/engines. Additional episodes are available by podcast.
It's 8:51 Friday morning here on KSJE. We have an extra segment this week. Joining me now in the studio from the Farmington Police Department, Officer Joseph Barreto is here.
It's fine.
And Officer Barreto, thank you for coming in. I appreciate you joining me this morning. This is your first media interview, I am told. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And so for folks who don't know, if you've been living under a rock for the past month or so, you were injured in the line of duty. You were shot by a suspect after a traffic stop. That suspect allegedly had escaped from the La Plata County jail in Durango and then was ultimately arrested in the Phoenix area, has now, according to news reports just this week, has been brought back to San Juan County. And so that's the situation. That's what's going on. So my first question to you is, how are you doing?
I'm doing better. I've had a month to recover now, not 100%. I used to love the cold, but now I kind of not like the cold. It's like a lot of metal in my arm now, but it's I'm progressing, so
sure.
I'm thankful for that.
And so, and we can't see in the video camera image, but you're wearing a brace on your right elbow,
yeah.
And so that's where you were shot. That's where you were injured. And so, talk to me about the damage, I guess, or what happened to your arm.
So after he shot one round to my head, he tried to shoot me again in the head, and I ended up throwing my arm in front of my face, and luckily the round went into my elbow instead of my face like he intended. And it ended up breaking my arm, shattering my elbow, and severing my tricep tendon. So I had to go into surgery the next morning, and luckily I had a good doctor, Dr. Johnson. He was able to not get everything 100%, but it's better.
Right.
It's better.
Well, I guess save the arm, right? Wasn't that a possibility? Maybe that you could have lost the limb almost?
They were telling me it was real close to my ulnar nerve, and I guess if it had severed that nerve, then I would have lost all function of my lower arm below the elbow. So I'm thankful that didn't happen as well. So.
Right. And again, in terms of anyone getting shot, I mean, again, if it hit you anywhere else, it could have been a lot worse.
Yes.
But still, that's a pretty serious injury to your elbow. That joint does a lot. And so you are kind of restricted even now as to what you can do with it. You're in this brace. You're going to physical therapy, you were telling me. And so what's the prognosis?
They said I'll never get full range of motion, and I'm hopeful that eventually I'll be able to feed myself with my right arm again. I am right arm dominant, so as it is, I can only reach it close to my face, but I can't really feed myself, wash my hair, or anything with it. So I'm hoping as my recovery progresses, so does the movement and range of movement in my arm.
And doctors are hopeful too? Are they telling you that with physical therapy that you should be able to regain some of that?
Yeah, they don't know exactly how much range of motion I'll get, but they're hoping that eventually I'll be able to feed myself with my right arm and be able to hopefully return to somewhat normal function with it.
Gotcha. Well, as a lifelong lefty, I can tell you there is hope if you have to use your left hand, okay?
Yeah.
So don't give up. But still, I mean, this happened in a split second, didn't it, this incident? And it started as a traffic stop, right? Just a routine traffic stop that you probably have done dozens, hundreds of times before.
Yeah, he was eventually he was called in as a drunk driver by the Starbucks off of Browning and Main, and when we tried to stop him, he ended up fleeing from us. But then another officer located the vehicle, and a passerby said that he saw a male flee from the area. So when I was setting up a perimeter, I decided to look in the dirt lot that was right there on Fairview and 10th, and I ended up running into Mr. Elias Book, and then that's where everything kind of went south for me that day.
Yeah, right. Life-changing.
Yeah.
Life-changing.
Yeah.
And so I want to ask you a bit about the future with police work and FPD, because obviously if you're right-hand dominant and you can't use your arm as well as you used to, that impacts a lot of things that you would normally do, as you mentioned, just washing your hair and eating, but drawing your gun, drawing your weapon, and firing, all those types of things, right? This has all impacted the things that you would do in the course of your job.
Yes.
So what does that mean? You are now working kind of, not desk duty, but not on patrol.
Yeah, I'm on they were kind enough to put me on light duty status right now instead of staying on workers' comp, because everyone knows workers' comp, you can't really live off that. So they were able to put me on light duty. Right now I'm working with the advanced training unit and building PowerPoints, lessons plans, and helping teach briefing trainings just to keep me around the department, which I'm grateful for, because being stuck at home even for that little bit of time was
Right.
is not the best.
Well, we haven't heard from your family, but they probably would agree. Wouldn't
Oh,
they?
yeah.
Yeah, maybe time to get them back to the office or something, right? But to get back out on the streets, which is probably why you got into law enforcement, that is a question mark.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how my injury heals and whether or not, what kind of range of motion I have. I know I've spoken with the chief and the deputy chief, and they would be accommodating for like a drop leg holster or something like that if that's the limit of range of motion I could get, but I mean, only time will tell. So
Right. And I suppose your left hand could learn shooting, and you could transfer some of those skills to your left hand with training and things like that. I'm sure there are many stories that folks have done that before who've had an injury maybe similar to yours, if that's what you wanted to do.
that's definitely a possibility. I mean, I don't know. I haven't really shot too
I'm
much.
jumping ahead, aren't I? Right?
Yeah,
Let's take it one day at a time, Michlin.
Yeah, so I mean, hopefully I'll be that skilled to be able to do that, but
I understand. But it definitely could impact your career.
absolutely.
I guess is what the point I'm trying to make, not in a very good way, but I'm trying to make it. So, there has been some a GoFundMe account set up for expenses for you. You mentioned the workman's comp and things like that. So, how is the family expenses? Because you have a family that you were supporting
I
too.
do. So Officer Tez with our department was actually able to set up the GoFundMe. She kind of did it on her own. On a whim, and I was very thankful because it did cover some expenses, you know what I mean, like food. I had a lot of people bring me food when I was out for those couple weeks, and just bills, utilities, rent, and the paint up. There was also a non-profit organization called 1082 out of Albuquerque who came down, and they were actually able to pay my rent for 3 months, which I'm really grateful for, you know, because I don't know if I'll be able, like I said, I don't know if I'll ever be able to actually return to full duty or not, and there might be more surgeries ahead just depending on how it heals. So
Right. And medical bills are what they are too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully they're being taken care of, at least most of them.
They're covered by workers' comp, but I mean, for the foreseeable future, I don't like I said, I don't know how it will heal. I'm praying, I'm hoping it heals to where I can return to duty, but
Right.
I don't know.
We'll see. And as you said, you've already had a month's worth of medical bills, and there's still going to be physical therapy ongoing and other things ongoing. And I don't know, will there be any more surgeries, you think, to try to or see how things heal up? I guess it's maybe too soon to tell on that, too.
I still have a lot of bullet fragments in my arm
Do you?
as well. Yeah, they weren't able to remove it without damaging more of my bicep tissue or anything like that. And then I also have my elbow was fragmented, and they weren't able to put any screws in it, so they're seeing if those will fuse and heal normally, but if not, they might have to go in there and remove those fragments as well. So
So you could have more procedures in the future,
Yes.
perhaps. We just have a couple of minutes remaining this morning, Officer Barreto, and so is there anything that you would like to say to the community for what you've gone through and maybe what you've been dealing with the last month or so?
Oh, I'm extremely grateful for the community. I mean, it's not every day that you hear a community stepping up and supporting their law enforcement, especially with the kind of like the narrative around the country right now about how police officers are bad. So I'm fortunate that San Juan County has been very kind to me. They donate a lot to the GoFundMe. I've had restaurants reach out to me, giving me meals and stuff like that. So I'm just grateful that I live here in Farmington and San Juan County, and hopefully I can get back out there and help serve the community like I was prior.
I think we are too, and I appreciate you coming in to share your story with us this morning. Wish you the very best, continued good recovery, and we'll see how things go. But come back and see us anytime.
Thank you.
All right, you're very welcome. That is Officer Joseph Barreto with the Farmington Police Department, my guest this morning here on KSJE.